Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Office Hours. Hey, Minovsky. No, it's just general questions, if there is any this time. Um, I'm hoping we can do a few kind of teasers during these in the coming weeks as we finalize stuff for the next major release. But I need Flo here with me to do that properly, so I don't accidentally show anything I'm not supposed to. So no, nothing specific today, unfortunately. It's just general questions. So yeah, if you have absolutely any questions, by all means, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can join me. It's quiet tonight, so there's absolutely no dumb questions. Any questions are more than welcome. And I say tonight, I realize you said good morning. I guess you're in the US, maybe South America. Uh, but yeah, it's tonight for us. Yes, we're in Paris. I've been talking with Augustine about a bug that I found when forking components. Have you heard anything about it in the past or have personal experience? No. Are you able to? I'll check the community now. Did you post a video or something like that about it, or is it just a text post? Because I haven't seen something like that. Ah, you're just literally getting an error when you try to do it. Okay. No. Sorry, Bruno. I've never seen anything like that. That's the first time I've seen this error. You trying to fork one of our native components, or is it a custom coded component that you've created? I don't even know if you can actually fork. I know I think if AI generates it, you can still fork it. But yeah, is it one of our components or is it one you've generated? Because it would be very odd if it's one of our components. I'm guessing it's one you generated. Yeah. Okay. So it's one of your ones. Yeah. Unfortunately, Bruno, I have no idea. It'd be one for the devs. Yeah. So it's your custom components. Okay. So you're trying to yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bruno. Unfortunately, there's nothing I could do. It would be one definitely for the devs to take a look because, yeah, I've never seen that error before. And you had the, I can see the error you put in the community from the console. So it says cannot read properties of undefined reading replace. Yeah. But if one of the devs looked at this, they could probably know off the top of their head straight away why it's throwing the undefined reading replace error. But unfortunately, there's not much I can do from my side. Did you put in a ticket for it? Because that way it can go through our process of having a dev take a look at it. Hey, Anton. Apologies again, Anton, by the way. I don't know if you saw my message on the community. I'm really sorry I asked you to put in a ticket for the issue you were having with the directions on the self-hosting onto the self-hosted app. I had no idea the self-hosted support is only for enterprise customers. So I apologize again for leading you astray on that. I had no idea. Yes, Bruno, I would definitely say put in a ticket for it. Unless Augustine can get you an answer from the devs. Maybe he has those superpowers. I don't, unfortunately. So it's probably best to create a ticket about it, because it will be obviously there's something in the code that prevents us from doing a straight duplication. But as to what that is, I think only a dev would be able to tell you. And to get a dev to look at it, we usually need to put it through a ticket so it goes through that process. So I'd recommend doing so if you haven't. We've just found out that if you copy to clipboard in Safari, the workflow fails with no output. Okay, that's not good, Anton. Just so I know, Anton, did you try and copy the text just using custom JavaScript? Just so I know if it's It's just something to do with our native action, basically, and that it's not something to do with copy to clipboard of trying to do it in the editor. It's actually something related to our native action, as opposed to a problem with the kind of underlying functionality of it. Okay. And is that in the editor or is it in production? I guess it's the editor. Maybe, yeah. I mean, it may even be just a user to user issue. Maybe you don't have the necessary permissions enabled on Safari, but maybe someone else might. So it might just be yeah, a permissions issue, but not even at a browser level, kind of a user per user browser level, if that makes sense. In production, okay. So you don't have the issue in the editor, it's just production. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it's a security issue, potentially not even Safari related. In the same way you have to give the browser permissions to copy to clipboard. It might be related to just the browser and not Safari specific. I'm not sure. It's only in Safari. Okay. Okay, I will make a note of it. But in the meantime, if you do need it, try using custom JavaScript for the copy to clipboard and see if that resolves it. But thank you for flagging it. Also, Matthew, I'm finalizing a marketplace I plan to deploy very soon. In terms of pre-rendering, I now understand it's not an option with WeWeb at this point. Yes, unfortunately not. There's no kind of native pre-rendering. I have heard of people using external pre-rendering services that are out there. I've personally never explored it, so I couldn't give you a recommendation. But I do know people have, I'm not going to say used because I don't know for certain that you can use it, but I know people have mentioned using external pre-rendering services in the past for their WeWeb projects. But we don't have any native functionality for it. And as I say, I've never personally done it, so I couldn't give you any advice on it. It's self-hosting, that's okay. I just want to know how to use the self-hosting out of the box, some guide how to use our product default hosting. Yeah, no, I completely get it, Anton. Um, trying to think of when we could get that released. I use only the default settings. If it's meant to have some special settings, it should be mentioned somewhere like a product. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. Um, we definitely need something like that. There's no excuse for it. I'm just trying to think when we could get something like that produced because it's kind of relying on the devs to give the information. It's all hands on deck to get the back end ready at the minute. Hopefully, we'll release it realistically start of next year on a full scale. Um, and at that point, we can focus on more of the kind of general education around it that isn't specifically back-end related. And at that point, we need to you can self-host the back-end, and so we'll need documentation on that anyway. And I think that would be the opportunity to I wouldn't even say update because there isn't really documentation around self-hosting at the minute. More so just actually create decent documentation around self-hosting. So I think with the backend, we can have better documentation around it because we'll also need documentation on hosting the backend. And at that point, I can kind of get the devs involved and have them kind of give some of those nuances around what you found. So apologies, it wasn't there already. If I understand correctly, you just want like an extremely basic level of documentation so you can avoid those hiccups. Those kind of gotchas that you can only discover when you make the gotcha. Um, yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you, and I apologize again. Um, I think the realistic time frame for that will be probably, um, mid-December/early slash early January, because it will come with the new backend, and that's a major documentation update. But I hear you. Just any kind of documentation around those gotchas is what you want. You have a Russian-speaking community, wow. You said they had some experience, maybe we'll share it if they share it. Yes. I, uh, I want the Russian secrets if you can get your hands on them. Uh, yeah. It's very cool, Russian-speaking community. I didn't know we had many Russian users, or Russian-speaking users rather, so that's cool. But yes, if you're able to share anything with me, then I can create some basic documentation around it. Just because, as I say, I need the devs to help me with that kind of thing because they understand the nuances. Um, and the devs are all hands on deck with the backend stuff. And I'll be killed if I try and take one of them off it right now. So that's why it'll until the backend is out. I can't really do anything on my side. 115 members. Wow. Just it's a WeWeb community. Or it's kind of like a low code community or something else? Wow, okay, cool. Cool. What's it on, out of curiosity? Like, what platform? Yeah, unfortunately. But it's on, like, Discord, Telegram? Like, what's the community hosted on? I'd be curious. WeWeb Superbase plus N8N, interesting. Telegram, okay, yeah, that's I thought you might say that's why I was curious. Oh, but it's very cool to hear there's I wouldn't say niche communities, but there's kind of these branches of communities. That's cool to hear. WeWeb Superbase and N8N, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be very curious to see if I'd love for you to test, I think we might do some closed testing of the backend in the next couple of weeks. So if you'd like to, I'd love for you to test it out, because I think the WeWeb plus Superbase N8N combination, it's like a perfect use case for using the new backend because you have obviously the database, but then you have APIs and everything around it. So yeah, I'd be super curious to get your take on it if you'd be open to doing some testing of it when we open it up. Nice. Yeah, it's a similar thing with it's not a apples to apples comparison, but it's a similar thing with Xano, I think, where you could use Xano's native query actions, but sometimes, not sometimes, I'm pretty sure, almost always, if you use native SQL, it's quicker than using their kind of no code query actions. And same with Lambda functions. Like if you need to loop over items, it's quicker to do it in a Lambda instead of actually using their kind of native looping actions. So maybe it's a similar thing. I'm not sure, but yeah, every platform has its quirks, I guess. Yeah, they do have self-hosting, but I think it might be enterprise only. I'm not too sure. True. Yeah, true. Active pieces. Interesting. I've never heard of active pieces. So what is it you use N8N for then? Outside of, because I guess you have functionality that Superbase can't cater for. I guess that's the use case for N8N. But what is it that you need to use N8N for? Curious. Okay, active pieces seems cool. Is that just because it's easier to do it visually than it is sometimes to create an edge function for it? Or is there stuff actually where you can't even, for whatever reason, do in Superbase and you yeah, okay, mid-level, yeah, makes sense. I guess it's for the it's nice to have the visual interface. But no, yeah, this active pieces seems cool. Yeah, I get you. I'm curious, Anton, what do you think of the WeWeb workflow building interface versus the kind of N8N interface for building the workflows? How would you compare them? Hey Matthew, any plans, hopefully closer than later, to add custom property styles that allow us to create collapsible sections, tooltips, and additional features? I'm guessing you mean in the node code components, Bruno. Um, yeah, I'm honestly not sure, but it's something I would honestly love because I never really touch custom coded components. I only use the no code components, and I'm very much aware of the cool stuff you can do with the custom coded components that aren't available natively in the no code components. So timeline, I'm honestly not too sure. It's not really been discussed as of yet, um, but I hope it's in the near future when we can fit it in because it's something I would absolutely love. Ah, one thing, Bruno, it's not a nice fix, but it's a bit of a fix that I use for my own no-code components. For the collapsible sections, it's a pain to set up, but you can still kind of do it in a similar way where you can have a Boolean property and you can use that to show or hide properties. So on some components that have a bunch of styling properties, I'll have like a, let's say it's a button component, I'll have a show background styling Boolean property, and then all of the background styling properties will have its hide property setting bound to whether or not the show background properties is toggled on or off. So you can kind of create a hacky collapsible section doing it that way right now. But it's obviously not as clean as the one we recently implemented that's on the data grid and stuff. But it's it's a bit of a hacky one for that. But for the rest of the things, yeah, I hope we can fit them in the future natively. Superbase doesn't allow you to group functions to folders and so on. With those tools, you can make a core with lots of wrapper. Na10 allows you to create a mess. WeWeb doesn't. Ah, okay. I hope that sounds like it's a good thing, Anton. I'll assume it's a good thing. Really? They copied the workflow editor? I didn't realize. I used Bubble maybe like 2 years ago. I didn't realize they'd updated the visuals of it. Na10 allows you to handle workflows more advanced, like I've asked to add try catch, yeah. Individual failures of the actions. Okay, cool. I think we'll have for the new backend for the APIs and any of the logic you create in the backend. I think we might have a try catch action. I don't want to speak too soon, but it's in the works. So we should have a try catch action that gives you more granular control over that. And document workflow is interesting. What do you mean by document? Because right now, I guess what are the additional documentation that NAN lets you do over what we allow? So for us, you can add descriptions to each action and then the workflow itself. And what does the NAN lets you do beyond that? Yeah, me too, Bruno. I love the new collapsible menus. They're quite cool with the UI. Plus the search kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Fingers crossed we can add them natively to the no-code components in the near future. It's not visual. As in, does NAN let you put comments and stuff like that on the canvas? Like kind of like Miro almost? Create an area, place all workflows part of it, and add a text description and links to documentation. Okay. I'm asking you all these questions, Anton, because I think yeah, that use case of where you use Superbase and then use NA10 on top of it is exactly like Miro. Okay, that's quite cool. Yeah. I'm asking you the questions because I think our backend is kind of the dream solution for that, where you obviously have the database, but then you have the APIs and everything that goes with it, the functions, et cetera, et cetera. But obviously it's done in the WeWeb workflow interface to build it all. That's why I'm asking so many questions about that, because we should improve that. We should improve our workflow builder basically to the best it can be, because it should now cater for the NAN use cases. Uh, I implemented a hybrid NAN and WeWeb tree workflow node canvas for WeWeb, and it works wonders. Allows segregate actions, and then you can just turn auto layout and have you go. That's very cool. I'm not sure if you posted it on the community, Bruno. I haven't had a chance to look, but it's also pretty one for the marketplace, I think, because We haven't had the chance to there's a bunch of custom coded components we'd love to create. We haven't explored it for now. I think the tree is quite a difficult one just because of how many options there is. It's almost difficult to cater for absolutely everything that some of the tree component libraries let you do. It's almost impossible to cater for them all just within the props that we could allow for. So it'd be a very complex one, but we've definitely thought about it, and I know a bunch of people want it. But it's cool to hear you got it set up. Like I say, I'm sure that's if you haven't considered putting it on the marketplace, then I definitely would consider it because yeah, I'm sure it's one that other people would want. Also, I've mentioned when you have all the variables bound in WeWeb, you need to click on every scripted tool to see it. You can see some information without opening a pop-up. Yeah, so that in the new release, Anton, that will be I wouldn't it's not fixed, but you'll have that change. So wherever you have something bound, it won't just be a generic you won't have that generic like purple UI where you have to click on the binding and then you can see it in the binding window. Where the binding is, you'll have the name of the thing it's bound to. So if you have the display of something bound to a variable called sidebar opened, for example, in that binding of the display, instead of just a generic purple box, it would say sidebar opened. So whatever it's bound to, so you don't have to click into it. At least I think that's what you mean. Uh, yeah, I realize I said it's only for the display, but it would be everywhere. So in anywhere you have something bound, instead of just seeing that generic purple box that you see, it would now say the thing it's bound to. Nice. I look forward to it, Bruno, because that's one that's there's nothing on the marketplace for it, and it's pretty tough to build yourself. So that should be a cool one. Usually it's really one or two variables. Yeah. So it should help a bunch for that, Anton, once we get it out the door. I love any feedback or suggestions regarding the properties. I've included the ones I believe to be more important modular, but if you see anything missing, which there are because of the SS, I'm not sure what you mean by SS. Because of the SS, let me know. Okay, cool. Yeah, Bruno, honestly, as I say, I haven't had a chance to check the forum. I don't know if you posted it already on there. I would put it on there, but then also put it on the marketplace. I wouldn't overthink it. I would just put it on the marketplace with what you have, as long as it works. Don't if it breaks, don't put it on the marketplace. But if it's working, put it on the marketplace, and then on the marketplace link includes some kind of contact form where people can reach out to you and then ask for more properties. Users will give you the best feedback. I haven't used the node. I don't really actually have a project in the past that's used a node builder, so I couldn't on my feedback wouldn't be that valuable, I'll be honest with you. And yes, share Anton, says, "Would like to see your NAN WeWeb tour. I think you're gonna go viral in the, WeWeb Russian community." I'm sorry again, Anton, for your self-hosting woes. I do apologize. But like I say, I know it's a pain to create the last thing you wanna do when you encounter something that breaks, and at the end of the day, it pisses you off, the last thing you then wanna do is have to spend the time writing about what you did to resolve it and et cetera, et cetera. But if you are able to just send me bullet points of anything you encounter like that, Anton, it's very much appreciated because then I can create docs around it. But like I say, I know the last thing you wanna do when you encounter something like that is start writing out some big explanation on it and all the rest of it. Because at the end of the day, you're probably very annoyed when you encounter it, so anything you're able to send me is super appreciated. Super, Bruno. I look forward to it. Yeah, and you would have to the best way to do it, Bruno, would be to duplicate the project and then delete everything. Yeah, no, we'd need in the future, I'm hoping we can do some allow more functionality around this in terms of what you the control you have over what gets uploaded. But for now, if you just wanted to upload the single thing, the best thing would be to create a duplicate of the project and then just delete everything that you wouldn't want shared, and then upload that duplicate with just the things you want to share to the marketplace. You could do it as a project or a library. Um, it's kind of preference. You wouldn't necessarily share more if you were to do it one way or the other. It's just a case of how people would access it. Whether or not they'd have to, they download it. That means they have they have a project added to their workspace, or they have a library that they can install on any of their existing projects. Node canvas. Okay, cool. Okay, guys, it's 5 minutes, but I think because it's so quiet, I'll probably call it here. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate you guys joining when it's quiet like this and just chatting. We're here every 6 to 7 p.m. Central European time on Tuesdays. And hopefully, I'm hoping maybe the next one, if not potentially the one after, one of the ones in the near future, the office hours in the near future, we can start showing some of the stuff off and getting feedback on it. Because, yeah, it's so cool what's coming, but we can't show any of it off just yet. But fingers crossed we can in the near future. Right. Thank you so much, guys. See you guys hopefully next week. Cheers.